Alright, this will be the second part in tacking on to the first video. Hopefully this will be a little bit more clear. I had to bring the camera up a little. Anyway, you guys know me. I'm always half-assing things. So anyway, I'm going to pick up where I left off. Last thing I showed you was a sleeping bag. It's a mummy sleeping bag. It's really cool. It works. I mean, it's great. I fit into it with space to spare. It's obviously I'm 5'11". You could easily be 6'4", or 6'5", fit in there because I've got several inches down on the feet or the head, depending. It's waterproof. The zipper works really well. It's very high quality. I can tell it doesn't have that issue where you get stuck all the time. I'm not a big fan of the mummy sleeping bags, but they're the best ones to do, light, backpacking and stuff. So anyway, moving on. I'll go pretty quick through some of these. We're still focusing on the camping slash, basic survival stuff. Standard mess kit. Anybody that's a Boy Scout or whatever familiar, it's got a couple cups and plates and pans and pots and whatnot. Don't need to show you that. We have, of course, I did show you the trowel already. This is an SOG axe. It's labeled as a throwing axe. The balance is pretty nice, but honestly, it's extremely thick, extremely well built. I've taken it out, chopped some pretty good size limbs apart. Anyway, I think it's a good thing to have. Again, we're not talking about zombies here. Let's be realistic. Anyway, so camp wicks. These are lamp wicks. They're just basically wicks. You can make pretty much damn near anything into a lamp, as long as you got some oil to burn. So it's always just to have a couple of these around. I've made a variety of lamps out of either old bottles like beer bottles or wine bottles, which of course are in abundance because we are in the United States. Of course, this is your fishing gear. A couple of bobbers, several reels, hooks, stuff like that. Just the basics. Again, you can use pretty much anything as a rod. As long as you got these basic stuff, you can make it work. And the bobbers are kind of just, why not? You don't really need them, but they're kind of helpful. Okay, we're going to show you two things here. So these are two separate things that do similar functions. So this first one is the Sawyer. This is the Sawyer water purification system. This is a single person. You can see that's the straw there with a little bag on it that you can use as a kind of like a, I don't know, like a mini Camelback, things like that. I would look this up. This is one of the few items that I'll actually mention the brand, and the only reason is because this seems to work really well. I've used it quite a few times on, not just used it, but I've filtered a variety of different water that I intentionally, like DI water that's sterile, that I intentionally seeded with a variety of different commonly found bacteria. I have my own, if you know me, you know why. I have my own lab in my apartment. Anyway, tossed a couple of basic stuff in there. Popped it under the microscope after spinning it down and really didn't see anything. It seems to work exactly as advertised. Again, you're looking at bacteria. You're not talking about things like viruses and chemicals and things like that. That's kind of a little bit harder to deal with. So we're going to assume right now that that's not an issue. If you have something you suspect chemical problems, don't drink it. These are just iodine tablets, purification tablets. The first one is kind of a hydroperoxide. The other one's iodine. And it also removes the second one removes the iodine from the water. So this is actually particularly useful. I tried this and it worked pretty well. One of the things I saw online is somebody said, here, I'll put a close up there, that if in an urban environment, a water situation, if you know something's going to go down, fill your bathtub with water. First thing you should do, and then pop a couple of these in there according to the instructions. And then you have a pretty good supply of water for a while anyway. For washing, not necessarily for drinking, but you probably could. What I would do is combine this with this and maybe make something useful. But for a day hike or whatever, these are fantastic. They're relatively cheap. The Sawyer straw, it's called the Sawyer Mini. They're really nice. I've had a couple of people, friends of mine that have bought them for their kids to bring along. It's kind of neat. They don't necessarily use water that they find, but I'm in an area where there's a lot of natural streams and things, and they have had them do that before. Whether you should or not, that's kind of up to you. But this isn't. It's I mean, it seems to work pretty well, and I don't. Of the, if you're in that situation where you need potable water, it's one of the better options. I'll just put it that way. Moving along. Actually, we'll bring this a little. Bring this a little closer in here. I don't have to lean over as much. All right, that's better. So, moving along, can't be gear. So, flint and steel, not actually flint and steel anymore. It's usually a magnesium carbide, some kind of mix. Anyway, just to give you. So this is a pretty basic one that you can find pretty much anywhere for a couple bucks, which was nice. But I got this Gerber one. I normally don't buy brand names, especially this particular brand, because it's kind of expensive. But I will say all their products are quality, and I'll just show it to you here. This is the Bear Grylls, or whatever marketed thing. But I wanted to show you that. Oh shit! So yeah, the sparks go really far. They last a really long time. This is actually why I put the towel down. They last. I've had a couple, like just a minute ago. One actually went over and hit my carpet. Go for a couple seconds sometimes. This thing, I've gotten to start that BioLite grill like almost instantaneously with just a rolled up newspaper or watered up newspaper in there. It's really wild. So this is one item that I'll say the brand again. It's not necessary, but it's definitely useful. And it's got a little toggle. You can hook it to your backpack or whatever you want to do. Anyway. Flint and steel, again, pretty basic. So then we have our variety of can openers. Very, very important for any situation. This is your basic, I think these are, I forget what these are called, P54s or something, but these are your standard P52s that the Army gives us. You can get these pretty much anywhere for like $1. It's worth having them. Not ideal, but they work. So we're going to continue on that same vein. These are Bushnell. I forget, again, I have the details that I'll probably paste as a comment underneath this or put in the description. These are waterproof Bushnell compact binoculars. They work really well. I mean, I'm very surprised. I'm able to get, they have individual eye adjustments. They have the anti-fog with the argon inside. Just really well. I've submersed them and used them, and you can even see them underwater through them. It works just amazing. I've had them in really hot and humid environments. Can't say enough about these. These are really, really well done. And they're very compact. You can see they fit in my hand. So binoculars, absolutely an essential thing. That's one of the few items that I would spend a little bit of money on. Do your research. Go to the store. Find one that is comfortable for you. That feels like I think these are, I want to say 10 by 30s. Check into the details, and I may do a separate review of these because there are a lot of options out there. And a lot of people don't know that there's a lot of detail in sort of the, there's just a lot. Like focus range, size, like for example, a cheaper version of these had the same magnification, but of course when I looked through them, they only showed me about a 2-foot wide area, whereas these show a good 15 feet at the same distance. So there's a lot of detail that has to do with these, and there's specific terms and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to get into details on any one item. So that's just to give you an idea that these are actually one of the things that I would put a little more research into if I was you. And definitely don't buy anything based on what I'm saying. This is just to give you an idea of the reasons of things to include. And again, all the things I've shown you so far should be pretty self-explanatory as to what purpose they serve. Moving along, just happen to have a variety of different knives in here. This is a fillet knife. Works really well. It's old school. I don't even know where I got it. I think Jeff, my brother, gave it to me. And then just these are just some generic. These happen to be throwing knives. The only reason I have them is because they're kind of nice. They're small, they're thin, and you can fit them anywhere. And they're really, they cut well and they're strong. Again, you can get these cheaply pretty much anywhere. But I would invest heavily in a multi-tool. I have a Gerber multi-tool. I don't have it here because multi-tools are pretty basic. But multi-tools, very, very good. Definitely something you need. I'm not putting that in this video because I assume that's something pretty much everybody has. Moving along, I have a bow. Not going to show you. Bow and arrow, pretty straightforward. Definitely get a wrist guard. If you don't know what that is, then you haven't shot a bow and arrow enough. Absolutely critical. Deck of cards. So these are kind of interesting. I don't know what the brand is on this. I guess, I don't know, Daverman Security, but there's a lot of different versions of this. What this actually is, It's battery powered, and they're magnetic security separation chimes. So you put this one somewhere, you put the big one somewhere. They have to be next to each other so they have a magnetic connection. And if they're separated from each other, they sound an alarm. This all has to do with the next area that I'm going to go into with the bug out bag-ish thing, is access and area denial, which really are pretty critical to a lot of the potential scenarios that I envision. Either gaining access to areas or putting yourself into place and then restricting access from someone else either crossing through or getting into. And this is just one that, again, no matter what, again, I'm showing you the basics. No matter what, somebody's going to find their way in if they really want to. So these are just kind of a backup of like, all right, if they do, how am I going to know? And there's a lot of different options for this. I have some rechargeable lithium-ion battery powered cameras, but again, cameras that requires a variety of things that you may not have. So these are pretty straightforward. They use standard watch batteries that can be found pretty much anywhere. Again, these won't last too long, but they might last a week or two that you need them to. It's just a good idea, I think. I've actually used them in the past in camping environments, and I've been able to tell when people got into my coolers and things like that because I put them in there. Some batteries in here, but one of the things I want you to see is that's a personal saw. It's the braided. This is the braided Teflon wire saw. So wire saw, not very useful, but there are certain situations, and this one happens to be able to cut metal pretty well. There are certain situations it's potentially useful. I've actually cut through a chain link fence with one of these. Again, not something you need, but something that might be worthwhile. But we're talking again about gaining access to. So one thing I would highly recommend: keys and locks. You can get quite a few of these for pretty cheap. I'd recommend no thinner than, I think, what is that, 1/4? I'm not sure, 1/8, probably 1/8. And then I've got some heavier duty ones. To go along with those, heavy duty chain link. These are twist coils. They have a max load of 500 pounds. There's a variety of different ones you can get. These are zinc. These are twist coils, refer to the size or the shape they take and how they're molded. So pretty critical if you're going to do any area denial type stuff. Same situation, standard lock, except these are, you can't see it in the video I don't think, but standard bike lock with the exception of it's a Brinks and it's very heavy duty. I was actually able to not cut through these with something I'm going to show you next. Some wire cutters. They have actually a Teflon and Kevlar weave over the actual hardened steel coil. So that brings me to the next thing. This, I've done a review on Amazon of this already. This is a Tekken 14-inch, or actually 12-inch bolt cutters. They work amazing. Every lock I just showed you, with the exception of the bike lock and that big copper master lock, I was able to cut through this with this like butter. They're only 12 inches. They're, you can see they're relatively small, not a big deal. Very easy to carry. They've got nice little loops here. You can loop them on the outside of something. Absolutely critical for a variety of reasons. Let's see. So not necessarily area denial, but sort of freedom of movement type situation here. So these are pretty standard. I'm sure you've seen these before. These are emergency car escape tools. You can use one side to break out windows. This is a seatbelt cutter. I actually keep these in my trunk, in my medical bag, as well as in between the seats in my front of my car, just because you never know when you might need them. Knowing me, I will probably drive into a river at some point, and unless you're really familiar with Mythbusters episode where they tried to open the window,